In 326 BC, on the banks of the River Hydaspes, today's Jhelum in Pakistan, unfolded one of antiquity's most remarkable battles. It was here that Alexander the Great, fresh from his conquests across Persia, faced King Porus of Paurava, a local ruler renowned for his valor and war elephants. The clash was not merely a contest of armies, it was a struggle of cultures, strategies, and legacies. The Hydaspes would become the last great battle of Alexander's campaign and a defining moment in the encounter between Greece and ancient India. After conquering the Persian Empire, Alexander pressed eastward, driven by ambition and a restless desire for glory. His empire already stretched from Greece to Babylon, but he sought to push beyond the known world. By 327 BC, he had crossed the Hindu Kush into the northwestern Indian subcontinent. His forces subdued local tribes in Swat and Gandhara. Beyond the river Hydaspes lay the kingdom of Porus, a tall and formidable ruler who controlled territory between the Jhelum and Chenab rivers. For Alexander, Porus represented both a challenge and an opportunity. Conquering him would solidify Macedonian control over the Punjab and extend Alexander's legend further east. Porus was no ordinary opponent. Commanding loyalty from his people, he prepared a formidable army to block Alexander's advance. He deployed around 30,000 infantry, 4,000 cavalry, and 200 war elephants, each a terrifying beast on the battlefield. The elephants, armored and trained for war, were especially intimidating to the Macedonians, who had never before faced such creatures in large numbers. Porus stationed his army on the eastern bank of the Hydaspes, ready to repel Alexander should he attempt a direct crossing. The swollen summer river, dangerous with currents, added a natural defense. Alexander now faced the problem of crossing without being crushed midstream. Alexander's army, though exhausted from years of campaigning, remained disciplined and loyal. He commanded about 40,000 infantry and 5,000 cavalry, veterans of Issus and Gaugamela. But a frontal assault across the Hydaspes would be disastrous. The elephants and the archers of Porus could annihilate his men as they waded through the river. So Alexander relied on deception, the hallmark of his generalship. For days, he feigned preparations for a direct crossing, marching his troops up and down the western bank. Each night, he created noise and movement, keeping Porus's scouts alert and uncertain. Meanwhile, he secretly scouted the riverbanks for a safer crossing point. At last, 27 kilometers upstream, near a wooded island, Alexander found his opportunity. On a stormy night, with thunder and rain masking their movements, Alexander led a portion of his army across the river. Using boats and rafts made from animal hides, his cavalry and light infantry ferried across under the cover of darkness. The swollen river made the crossing perilous. By dawn, Alexander had secured a foothold on the far bank. Porus, alerted by scouts, rushed to meet the Macedonians with his cavalry and chariots. The ground was muddy from rain and his chariots became bogged down. Alexander's cavalry, swift and disciplined, quickly routed them. The skirmish set the stage for the main battle. When Porus realized Alexander had crossed, he advanced with his full army to confront him. The elephants were placed in the front line, forming a living wall. Infantry stood behind the elephants, while cavalry guarded the flanks. Behind them, archers and reserves stood ready. Alexander organized his troops with equal precision. He placed his companion cavalry on the right, under his personal command. His infantry phalanx, armed with long sarisas, formed the center. On his left, cavalry and horse archers held the line, ready to outmaneuver Porus. The battle opened with Alexander launching his cavalry against Porus's flanks. Meanwhile, the Macedonian phalanx advanced steadily towards the elephant line. The elephants were the terror of the battlefield. As the Macedonian phalanx approached, the beasts charged, trampling soldiers and tossing them aside with tusks and trunks. Their sheer size broke phalanx formations, while archers riding the elephants rained arrows down. Yet Alexander's troops adapted. They targeted the elephants' eyes and drivers with spears and arrows. As elephants were wounded, they panicked, trampling Porus's own infantry in the chaos. Meanwhile, Alexander's cavalry executed brilliant maneuvers. Outnumbering Porus's horsemen, they encircled his flanks. The muddy ground favored the lighter Macedonian cavalry over Porus's heavier units. Slowly, the tide turned. Despite the chaos, Porus fought bravely. Mounted on a massive elephant, he directed his troops with remarkable composure. Ancient sources describe him as towering and fearless, refusing to yield even as his army faltered. But exhaustion and attrition wore his forces down. The elephants, once his greatest asset, became an uncontrollable mass in their agony. Cavalry and infantry losses mounted. Surrounded and wounded, Porus still resisted until he was finally captured alive. When Alexander approached the defeated king, he reportedly asked, "How do you wish to be treated?" Porus replied with dignity, "Like a king." Impressed by his courage, Alexander not only spared Porus, but reinstated him as ruler, granting him even more territory than before. This gesture was both political and practical. By honoring Porus, Alexander secured the loyalty of local populations and ensured stability in his newly conquered lands. The Battle of the Hydaspes was one of Alexander's hardest fought victories. It showcased Alexander's genius in river crossings, deception, and adapting to new forms of warfare, like elephants. It marked the meeting of Greek and Indian worlds, influencing art, science, and thought for centuries through Greco-Buddhist culture. Despite victory, the battle revealed the challenges of campaigning so far from home. Alexander's exhausted troops, fearful of even mightier Indian kingdoms beyond the Ganges, soon refused to march further east. Thus, the Hydaspes became the easternmost limit of Alexander's empire. The clash in the Hydaspes River was more than a battle, it was a turning point. Alexander proved his military brilliance yet again, but he also encountered the limits of ambition and the resilience of local powers, like Porus. Though the Macedonian Empire would fragment soon after Alexander's death, the memory of Hydaspes endured as a symbol of courage, strategy, and the encounter of two great civilizations. Today, on the banks of the Jhelum, the echoes of that ancient battle still linger, reminding us of the moment when East met West in one of history's most legendary confrontations.